Welcome to CleantechTV. My name is Giles Parkinson. We're joined today by Tim Lindquist, the CEO of Portus. Can you explain exactly what business you're in and what it's about?
We started in the connected home domain some time ago. So we're actually the original inventors of the connected home. We have the foundation intellectual property in that space going back to 1998. We were well ahead of the market. We got our early runs on the board, winning the top connected home program in the world at the time in Singapore. The Singapore government was rolling out a connected home program, invited expressions of interest from around the world. We formed a consortium and won a project under that and ran out a national trial in Singapore.
So the connected home, we're talking about sort of home management systems, aren't we?
Yeah, well, we started in the connected home domain, and the connected home solution is generally a gateway-based solution. So there's a device in the home that provides a number of different services, and these can be things like home monitoring, also known as video surveillance, home security, home control, home metering, home messaging, etc. So it's a suite of services delivered through a single platform in the home. We started in that domain. We were well ahead of the market. And in recent years, we've focused primarily on leveraging our original solution and applying that to the energy management domain, residential energy management domain. So nowadays we work primarily with utilities as part of their smart grid efforts in the home area network space.
And so presumably it's the home energy management or the energy management which is the big growth area here. What are the sort of the business drivers that's making this happen? Presumably it's a recognition of costs and increasing costs.
It's a number of factors, but certainly cost is one of the major ones. Obviously, in different parts of the world, there's mandated targets for things like greenhouse gases and renewables. Some countries are obviously leading, others are lagging. For utilities worldwide, though, there's a really big issue with the problem of peak demand. Basically, if you look at world energy grids, peak demand is forecast to grow by about 20% over the next decade. The capacity is only forecast to grow by about 5%. So there's this looming crisis in the energy business. So we're really focused on solving some of those issues.
Now, you were recently part of a trade delegation to the US with Austrade. What was your impression about the business environment there? And can you tell us, is the US your main growth market, your overseas growth market, or do you see growth in other areas as well?
Well, because we've got a particular emphasis around demand response and aggregation of both demand response capacity and energy efficiency capacity, and because the markets for that in the US are reasonably mature, the US market is a primary focus for us at the moment, but we also see major opportunities in other markets, but in particular China. We expect things to be driven by government in China. Obviously, the price of energy within China is cheap. It's subsidised by the government, but there's the ability, because it's a centralised regime, to actually implement change rather quickly once they put their mind to it. So first cab off the rank is really focusing on the potential in the US market, but with a very close focus on China after that.
And so tell us about the Australian market. What are the prospects here? Is Australia sort of into this new world of energy efficiency and demand management?
Yeah, well, absolutely. From a utility perspective, we're seeing a lot of activity in the space. A number of utilities are trialling various components of the smart grid, and we're generally working with utilities to help them with the customer end of the smart grid, the residential customer end. So there's a number of utilities that are involved in trials in that space. Obviously, utilities like Energy Australia recently won the Smart Grid Smart City program. That's a $100 million federally funded program to roll out a full end-to-end smart grid in Australia. But all the other utilities are very active. In particular, we're obviously working with Ergon and had a significant press release just recently around what we're doing with Ergon in the electric vehicle space to integrate electric vehicles into the grid. So very active.
And that contract you just mentioned there with Ergon about the electric vehicles, I mean, that's the fascinating. I mean, that's sort of looking really into the future, isn't it? And I guess the interesting part of that is that future's not so far away, but it's a dramatic change, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, electric vehicles will obviously take some time to get to mass penetration, but for utilities, the challenges start well before that time. An electric vehicle is a major load. It can be equivalent to a complete household in the load that it adds to the grid. So if you've got a local transformer in a particular area that's already close to capacity and you add one or two electric vehicles, you've got a really big issue. So utilities see this as a challenge that they need to address, a challenge that they need to manage, but it's also a major opportunity because once electric vehicles come on stream, you've actually got storage distributed around the grid by virtue of the electric vehicle battery. And that capacity can be supplied back to the grid at times where there's a shortfall. And that can be particularly important as you get more renewables come on stream. So you get intermittent renewables such as wind or solar. Suddenly there can be a dip in the capacity provided by those sources, and you know, the things like electric vehicle and demand response can make up that difference. So major challenge, but also major opportunity.
Indeed. Well, good luck with it, Tim. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for talking, Giles.